All right, hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, File Dependencies for Batch Processing. Today we're going to talk about robot schedule reactive jobs. Thanks for joining us. Today's webinar is about 30 minutes long. We'll have some Q&A at the end, so it's going to be a rapid-paced webinar, isn't it, Tom?
It is. Quick as us today.
Yeah, so Chuck Lazinski, I'm the what am I? I'm the one of the technical guys on the robot team. And Tom, you're the EVP of Technical Services, longtime robot guy.
Yeah, been doing
Yeah,
this for quite a while. So slides
yeah,
moving ahead, Chuck.
yep. Let's do that.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good. Well, yeah,
There we
really
go.
excited to be here. Been using, robot, I used robot back on the System 38 days, Chuck, believe it or not. So it's kind of been fun to come to help systems and really, reactive jobs wasn't in robot when I came over. Matter of fact, group jobs were there, but they weren't really what we needed in as a systems admin team. So got very involved in the development back then, and part of the reason that we have reactive jobs and group jobs as they are today in the product. So that's all exciting. And today we're going to talk about a lot about file watching, really is what we'd call it in the industry, right? And using robot schedule to monitor files in the traditional library system, the IFS area of IBMI, and then of course, if you have Schedule Enterprise, which is our Windows Linux Unix integration, we can monitor files and directories out in the non-IBMI world. It all starts, so you do need to run the robot schedule GUI. If you run green screen only and you go into the product, you won't see what we call event monitors, and we'll talk about that today. So
Yeah.
anything else to add to this, Chuck?
Well, yeah, one of the driving forces behind this webinar today is that I've been working with a lot of our clients over the last 6 to 12 months, and
Hmm.
I've seen a lack of dependency processing, kind of the people
Really?
didn't know what's available. All right. And
Wow.
so that's why we're here for today's webinar. So
Yeah.
we'll keep this archived out there. We'll send you a link to the recording. I'm going to turn my camera off. And Tom, let's look at the agenda.
Let me do the same. All right, move on to the
Oh yeah,
agenda.
here we go.
So agenda is, wow, pretty short, Chuck. Reactive jobs and file events and service monitors and what we can do with that. We're not going to talk about group jobs today per se, are we? But that's another way of doing dependency inside of robot schedule. So either group jobs or reactive jobs, but the reactive jobs probably give us the most flexibility. So that'll be where we spend quite a bit of the time. Go right
All
ahead,
right.
Chuck.
All right, we've got our first polling, and our polling question is, do you use reactive jobs now? All
I
right,
do.
maybe use them for robot batch. Yeah, I know you do, Tom. Do you use them for robot batch jobs only? For batch and robot replay interactive, do you combine those? How about enterprise? Or maybe you just don't use reactive jobs at all.
Yeah, we have some
All right.
people that their whole night processing, Chuck, is all reactive jobs. And one of my models, you know me, I always have models from an automation standpoint. It's like management by exception, automation at the source. Well, another one is event-driven schedules are where you want to be.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Okay. I'm going to close the poll. This is interesting results, and I will share the results.
oh, where are the results that keep? Yes, for robot, IBMI robot batch
Okay.
jobs only. Okay, 8% with robot replay, another 23% with enterprise. Okay, good, good. And
Yeah.
wow, a
Very
quarter that
interesting.
are not using reactive jobs. Okay. Well, good. Welcome
Yeah.
to all
Okay.
the maybe the newbies on this topic, right?
Exactly. I am not, I'm not surprised by those results, Tom. So let's take a look at the basics. We're going to spend about 10, 12 minutes just looking at the basics of what we call a reactive job. All right. So reactive jobs are part of the base robot schedule tool. So whether you're using only green screen or you're using green screen and GUI, you can take advantage of robot dependencies or reactive jobs. And you can combine those with other utilities that are part of our scheduling suite, whether you're using the JD Edwards Enterprise One or SAP interfaces, Robot Replay for automating interactive processes, Robot Schedule Enterprise for automating the rest of your data center and incorporating that with your robot batch processes. You can incorporate that with reactive jobs. All right, nice combination to accomplish your reactivity. So what can you react on? All right, so what does that mean? That means that I can set up a dependency between one robot job and another robot job. So instead of having discretely scheduled jobs, and I've seen this where I've gone into a customer site and they've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of jobs, and every one of them is discretely scheduled to run on a particular day of the week at a particular time of the day. That gets very confusing and difficult to manage. Dependency processing helps with that. Tom, you've mentioned group jobs. We've got some good training out there on group jobs in our scheduling recording that we have out on the community portal. We did a recording in June on group jobs and all about robot schedule. So if you'd like some help finding that, certainly reach out. You can also react across partitions using our robot network tool. So I could have a robot job on one partition, trigger a robot job on another partition using robot network. You'll see us today talk quite a bit about agent jobs, and that's an add-on to Robot Schedule called Robot Schedule Enterprise. And that's agent technology that runs in Windows or Unix, Linux, that allows you to trigger batch processes, scripts, executables, and even file transfers using these agent processes and making them part of your dependency processing. You can also react to user-submitted jobs. So user submits a process on your IBMI that could trigger a process downstream inside of Robot Schedule. All right, we also have agent events. Tom's going to talk about agent events today. So what we're talking about is, for instance, if you're expecting a file to arrive in a Windows directory, Robot Schedule Enterprise could detect that and trigger a downstream Robot Schedule job to potentially move that file into an IFS directory and then run a process to process the data. We can do the same thing with native file events, and that's what the base robot schedule. You don't need anything else other than the graphical user interface, the GUI, to set up a native file event. So just the base robot schedule. And the cool thing here, Tom, is that any of these can be combined. I could have a group job trigger a single robot job. I could have multiple robot jobs be prerequisites for a group job that then trigger a agent job and so forth. So I can combine all that. All right, and then further, you can combine dependency processing with jobs that run on a particular day of the week, time of the day of the month, so you can accomplish your automation goals. For instance, here's a complex scheduling scenario. You've got two jobs, job A and job B, and they complete normally. Now, also, if a file arrives between 5 p.m. and 11 p.m. and it's Monday through Friday, you want that job to then run at 11:30 p.m. All right, so you could easily set that up using dependency processing. Also, FYI, if you do have these dependencies and they happen on a job, but maybe, for instance, not completely, you just want to clear out all the dependencies, there is a command, RBT clear dep, that clears away any unused prerequisite statuses from a reactive job. And if we have time today, I'll show you what that looks like. That's just a tip. Okay. So today we're going to look mostly at the graphical user interface inside the GUI, and what you're looking at is a job, an invoice processing job, all right, called CLERRINB, and it has some dependency processing. We'll look at that today, but if you want to add a prerequisite, you simply go to the reactive jobs panel and you select add robot job. Here's the add remote job. That's if you're in Robot Network. Add user job if you want to react to a user submitted job. You also have to turn on submit job tracking. You can add an agent event. So it'd be a file arriving in for instance, a Windows or Linux directory, and then add a native event. All right. And then likewise, you need to tell us how you want to react or when you want to react. You want to react on a normal completion, an abnormal termination. Maybe you want to go down another path if you have a termination, or maybe you don't care. Normal or abnormal, likewise, you can react when a job just gets submitted, when your prerequisite gets submitted, or when your prerequisite actually goes active and starts running. Okay, so a couple other dependency types as far as cross-partition. Robot Network is required. All right, so when you add a remote job, you'll select the system where another robot's instance of Robot Schedule exists, and then you'll pick the job from that system. All right, so that's called cross-system reactivity. All right, you can also react to user jobs. All right, so you simply select user type job. You indicate what job name you want to react to. You can also insert this as just a flag that you set with a command, RBT send robot data. All right, so you set this, you just create this flag, and then you can set the flag using this command. Likewise, if you're tracking user submitted jobs, you have to turn on user job tracking with RBT INS SBM. All right, and then there's agent events, and Tom's going to talk about this, agent and native file events. Tom's going to talk about that in detail. All right, that gives us a few minutes here, Tom, for our live demo.
Sounds
So let's
good.
do that. I've got a few, Tom, can you see my screen okay?
I can. Yep. Go right ahead.
Okay, so I'm inside of the Explorer, and I've expanded the applications branch. So these are groups of jobs, and specifically I want to look at these accounting related jobs. All right, so here's a job. You really can't see what it's related to. All right, but there are some options. If you just right click, you could say, what are my dependent reactive jobs? Okay, so what jobs are downstream? All right, so CL job 1 triggers CL job 2 on a normal completion. Okay, so that's interesting. Also, you could say, what is the prerequisite status? So is there something prior to CL job 1 that it reacts to? And sure enough, that job reacts to CL nightly. It reacts on either an abnormal or normal, and the actual current status of the prerequisite is just blank. It hasn't done anything. Okay. Now, how do I set up the reactivity? I simply edit the job, go into the properties, and one of the primary tabs that you'll see in the properties is reactivity. All right, now this job is scheduled to run Monday through Friday at 2300 hours. So it is discretely scheduled, but also I have to have this prerequisite satisfied. My nightly job has to have run either normally or abnormal termination. And then here's my options for instance, adding a robot job, another robot job into the mix. All right. So now my CL nightly processing job has to complete, and likewise my age out queue robot job has to complete. All right. Now I might want to react in either respect, and I might want to change my react to status. For instance, maybe age out queue has to for sure complete normally to trigger my invoicing step 1. All right, so let's get rid of that for now, remove that. Okay, let's look at this a little bit different. One of the things you can do with robot jobs is you can blueprint them, all right? And I've already done that. I've blueprinted my accounting process, and it looks like this. This is a job flow diagram, right? And I'll quickly explain that here's my nightly processing that happens. My nightly processing is a group job. It's got these 4 steps, and it actually has a prerequisite of a daily backup, as well as some file events that Tom's going to talk about here. But after my CL nightly process runs, downstream it triggers my invoicing errors report. It triggers my invoicing step 1. And if it's also month end, if it's the last day of the month, my month end close is going to run. Okay, that's pretty interesting. So I've got my schedule activity monitor up. You guys are probably very familiar with the schedule activity monitor. We're actually going to run this process. All right, so I'm going to, rather than waiting for my daily backup to run tonight at 11 p.m., I'm just going to kick off my nightly process. It's kind of a fictitious process. So it's going to run these steps down here in the group job, but then once it's done, it's going to trigger some of this downstream activity. All right, so I'm going to do this job now. Let's see what happens. Now remember, this invoicing errors report is scheduled to run at 11 p.m. So we don't expect to see that, but we should see invoicing, or we should see the invoicing step 1 and invoicing step 2 run. So here's CL Nightly. It's running some of these group jobs that are part of the process, and that'll just take a minute. And then you will see here, as my group members run, they're showing up here. Now, again, that's a topic that we'll see, or that you can look at in our recorded robot schedule series. All right. We'll give that a second to run. I probably should have taken out that robot replay job, Tom. That'll take a couple minutes, but that's actually a good point that, robot replay can be part of the process. So there's my invoicing errors report, and my CL nightly job is done. All right. So what we've seen now is we've seen multiple steps running, and here, let me jump into CL job 1. CL job 1 did not run because it was scheduled to run. It is scheduled to run Monday through Friday at 11 p.m. And here on the reactive panel, though, all right, it says it reacts to CL nightly. And I'll just move over here. It says, sure enough, CL nightly completed normally at 9:15. So it's all prepped to run now at 11 o'clock tonight. It's got its prerequisite satisfied, and it's got its schedule satisfied. All right, Tom, that was a quick rundown of reactivity. Let's take a look at file dependencies. I'm going to make you the presenter.
Oh, okay. Very good. Let me bring up my PowerPoint. And
oh yeah, or you want me to show my PowerPoint?
Nope. I'll bring it up on my end. That makes sense. Let me just
okay.
Get that going here. And now I need to see which screen. Are we seeing the full screen mode?
Well, we're seeing, no, you need the swap.
Yeah, there we go. First time on this technology today. Let's do that. All right, that'll be better. All right, let's jump into file events and service monitors. And looks like you gave me plenty of time here to get through this. One of the areas that has given people headaches over the years was the ability to be able to just monitor files that arrive on IBMI. And I can't even remember how long ago now, but I'm going to say somewhere at least a decade ago, we added in the ability to monitor libraries in IFS and look for things where files have changed, members have been added, do things based on intervals or days of the week, and look at appending files. You can use what we call static reserve command variables or constant reserve command variables to be able to put a date in there and say, grab the file that has the name of the file has this date. And we can do that also even longer, I think probably 5 years prior to that. So for at least 15 years, Robot Schedule Enterprise, if you have that technology, can do the similar thing monitoring Linux, Windows, and Unix. But you do need to do all of this from the graphical interface from the graphical interface. And these can all be then prerequisites, and they can be used in combination, as Chuck just talked about in that reactive job area. So as I see in the diagram, we could have file 1, 2, 3, and then all those 3 files come in, then we run the job, and that can be completely event driven. So just to give you a little more technology or tips around this, you can use generics and wildcards in the functions. So in the IFS here, we could say, let's monitor the home directory called application, and anything that arrives that's a file, use an asterisk, or anything that starts with account asterisk .ext and so forth. You can see all the different examples here. And certainly we can do that in the native file system too, but you do need to reference your libraries with the qsys.lib, as you know, or hopefully know. On IBMI, you can reference qsys.lib as a directory like we're doing here. And then the library name that has the directory with libname.lib, and then the name of the file or an asterisk again, and you get the idea that you can use multiple combinations there, okay? So where is this found? Here's an image in the GUI. I'll show you this live in a little bit, but under scheduling objects, again, not in the green screen, you can do what we call event monitors. Event monitors are for file events, directory, IFS events, member events, and this is where we can get into using static reserve command variables. That's what those @ signs. So what we're doing here is we're looking in qsys.lib, in my colleague Vivian.lib, library / last is the first part of the file name, and then whatever the process date value is, which is probably today. And then this is kind of what it would look like. So we use the reserve variable, and this happens to be from March 14th of 2021. And we're looking for the date change, but notice we can do file increase, decrease, removed, a certain threshold, a variety of ways of grabbing that. So you set that up, and This is just giving you examples of this screen for the added feature, the removed, the file's been removed, changed, the date and time changed on a file, and then of course a threshold. Some people have rules where they say, hey, if the file gets bigger than X amount, then I want to run this process. It might be a purge, it might be, hey, we got enough records, let's process it now. And it's a transactional file that's coming in and they want to process it, okay? So then we also then look at the event monitor properties. If we go to event monitors and we look at one of these, we can look at a variety of things. We can look at the properties of it. We can look at the history. Your auditors will probably like that. There's audit history in there. There's certainly, you can submit off those blueprints that Chuck was showing. You can build what we call a forecast schedule. You know, one of the problems with file monitors is when is the file going to come in? And if you want to use dependent on some of the forecasting and stuff, you can build what we call kind of a fake forecast or a dummy forecast that triggers, schedule activity monitor and triggers some of the other forecasting in robot schedule. And then of course, you can then do the dependent reactive jobs. This will show you what jobs are dependent on this file. So when I say jobs, you could have more than one job that could be triggered based on a file coming in. Now this whole area, probably for those who have been with robot schedule for 20 plus years, 30 years, replaces that some things that you might have been doing in Opal. And I think this is a much cleaner way of monitoring for files. Now we also, if we get into the Windows, Linux, Unix monitoring aspect of Robot Schedule Enterprise, here not only can we monitor for files and stuff, but now we can also monitor for processes. So think of services and daemons as never-ending jobs in the Windows, Unix, and Linux world, and now we can monitor for them. For instance, many of times I've had conversations with customers, Chuck, where somebody said, yes, we want to run that process over on Windows, but sometimes the service isn't running and nobody knows about it, and then they go launch the process and it blows up, right? Well, we could use Robot Schedule Enterprise as even a monitoring feature and be able to monitor those services for you, okay? So Chuck already showed this, but we're focusing in on add agent event and add event. Those are the two features that on your reactive job prerequisites that gets you into this file, services, daemon monitoring, depending upon which one you're doing, IFS directory, and then so forth. And then these can be used in and or combination. So it could be this job has finished and this file has finished, okay? Let's see, what else do we have before live demo and keeping on time? Oh, we got great timing going here, Chuck. I think this is this. Thank you. This is my robot schedule GUI. All right, and I'm using a remote desktop in here. So one of the things that I've found over the years, and I used to always run the GUI, and now I'm working from home and doing demos. It's a little slower if you're doing the GUI from your desktop over VPN, but with a remote desktop, I have the GUI installed in our infrastructure, and I can just open things up like this, and it's much faster. So first of all, we have the event monitors here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I have one where we can see by doing a right click if it's related to any other jobs, and I have this job here that will run when the prerequisites are met here. I'm also, I believe, if I look at the properties here, I'm using a reserved command variable. So notice you can do a static variable here, and you can prompt for those and which ones you can use. And I'm looking at a time range on this every 15 seconds. Just another little thing that's kind of fun is I can see the event history when it last processed. And then to Chuck's point, the blueprint, I could submit the blueprint off and get a flow chart of the relationship of this file with the jobs that it's going to trigger. So maybe we'll come back and look at that in a bit. Then we get down to enterprise scheduling. Again, your GUI won't have this option unless you have Robot Schedule Enterprise. It is our way of being able to do IBMI-centric job scheduling. So I have agents out there. These agents are Windows, Unix, and Linux agents. And I also have event monitors that I'm doing. So if I come down here, look at all my event monitors. One of the event monitors I have is right here called Robot SQL F. And what this is doing is from my remote server, it's monitoring a directory and it's looking for a file that starts with RB asterisk that's been added, hasn't changed in 15 seconds. And so that's just one of the, so here's the server I'm monitoring, and it's a file event. What I'm going to do is I have a file here. This is the directory up here. It starts with an RB. I'm going to drop it in that directory that we're monitoring, and we'll see the effects of that here shortly. So while that is happening in the background, let's look at our agent event history. And we can see that this ran on August 10th, 2 days ago. I got a feeling it maybe hasn't kicked off quite yet. So, we have to have a combination of things going on. So let's see here, what else can we do here? We can do our blueprint here. We also can see what jobs are dependent on this. And so this is a great example. There's 3 jobs that potentially could run when this file comes in. And let's see here. Did our event history happen, Chuck? There we go.
Yes.
Getting a little worried there. Oh, thank God. The other
Tom,
part I didn't.
scroll over. Yeah.
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 Isn't that funny? Great minds think alike. I didn't show you that. It will tell you the file that was processed too. So you know where you're getting like dynamic dates and stuff like that. It's kind of fun to have that history.
It's a nice audit trail.
Yeah. So you know what? It's 27 minutes after the hour. I should probably wrap this up. Oh, I didn't show my blueprint. Let's see, right here. So this I ran just now, and not very complicated. That's all that's there. I believe if I do a reload, that's probably it, I think. Yeah, those are it. All right. But anyways, so, that job running, it triggered completion history up here. So while we were having fun here listening to me talk, these jobs actually ran. And when I display this, because it's a Windows job, one of the things I always get really excited about is I love job logs. And the thing that completion history is just built right in here. We get our IBMI job log, but better yet, we get our Windows log. How many times are you in meetings where you're pointing fingers at each other going, did it happen on IBMI or did it happen on Windows? Okay. With that said, Chuck, I am going to stop sharing my desktop and turn it back over to you to wrap this things up.
All right, I'm going to first of all share a polling question. Basically, how can we follow up with you? We are here also to take your questions. All right, so there's our polling question. And Tom, if we have a second, I would like to share my desktop and show
Sure,
Insight.
absolutely.
Can I do that and the polling question at the same time? All right, let's do that.
Am I seeing the polling question? I'm not sure I'm seeing that, Chuck, but it could be that I have multiple things up in the way.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, there it is. Yep, very good.
All right, excellent. Okay, let me share my desktop quick. Oh, no, looks like I can't when I got the polling question
Yes,
up.
you can't do
Well.
that. So, well, anyways, how
Yeah.
can Help Systems help you? You'd like a demo of Robot Schedule, you'd like to start a trial on Robot Schedule, you need pricing on Robot Schedule, you need a robot health check. What's a robot health check? What do you do there, Chuck?
So what we'll do is we'll spend about an hour with you and we'll look at whatever product you want us to look at, Robot Schedule, Robot Console, Robot Alert, Robot Save, etc. And we'll take a look at if it's being fully utilized and if you could do maybe a little bit better and if you're doing the proper purging, for instance, on your history. And hey, Tom, what's a tech update conversation?
Well, tech updates, we do a lot of those throughout the year. We probably have one-on-one meetings with at least 500 customers annually where we just go through what's new at Help Systems and what's on your roadmap and talk about challenges, things that you're looking for from an automation or cybersecurity perspective. And or, I know several of you out there might have SQL or you might have Showcase or some of our document management technology too. We'll dive into those areas and make sure that we have the right experts along the way to help you out and answer your questions. There we go.
And
Probably
Tom,
enough on that polling question, huh?
Tom, we have a question out here. And we have less than a minute, so let's answer this. It says, do you need Robot Network for the process event monitor to appear? And they do have Robot Schedule Enterprise.
Well, no, you don't. So Robot Network is not a requirement for doing monitoring of IFS or library files within the same IBMI partition, and it's not needed for Robot Schedule Enterprise to monitor Windows, Unix, or Linux. So that all works. Think of each of those agents that are running on your Windows, Unix, or Linux server as basically monitors in themselves running in those environments. So Robot Network is not required for that. Robot network is required only for cross-system reactivity. That would be it. Great
Ryan,
question,
thank you for
Ryan.
that question. Yeah.
Yeah, is that enough for today, Chuck?
Tom, I think it is. Thanks for joining me to talk about reactive jobs. We will have this posted out on our website, and you'll also receive a link to the recording. Really appreciate everybody's time today. And
Yes.
Tom, hey, go robot.
Go robot. There we go.
All right.
Team Robot. I should show you the back of my shirt, but you know what? I can't see my camera then, so, and I don't have a mirror back there. So anyways, you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for being Help Systems customers. We enjoy working with all of you, and stay safe out there, and we'll hopefully see you soon here as we roll through things. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.